Hello guys, welcome back. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. In this video we're going to be starting a new book. I did put a little vote out on the YouTube community post. I had two books that I was sort of not sure which one I wanted to read first, so I did ask for some input and I got it. And it looks like we're going to be reading Believe in Yourself by Joseph Murphy first. The other book that was the option is The Power of Prayer by the same author, Joseph Murphy. I previously did read The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by the same author, and I really enjoy reading his work because he writes it in a way that is very easy to understand. It is a universal message that he has. It's not pertaining to a specific gender, a specific religion, or even at many times specific beliefs. These books are older. As I said, he passed away in 1981. This book here that we're going to be reading is copyright in 1955. But because of its inherent message, it is still very much pertains to humans today, to the way that our mind works today, the same as it did many years ago. So Dr. Joseph Murphy, he's an Irish author. He spent much of his time in India, so he learned a lot about Hindu philosophy working with Indian sages, and he taught that as well. He was ordained as a divine minister and a divine religious science. He was also ordained in that. So he was very well known, and even had, I don't think they called it a church, but it was like a new thought organization, which I think today would translate to like a new age. But a new age today has such a wide umbrella of meaning, so I don't like that term, but that's the best I can describe it, because back in 1955, what this author was putting out there was not something that a lot of people had any clue of like they do today. The subconscious mind, manifestation, the power of your thoughts, your words, all of the things. So he was a very forward-thinking man, and his work stands the test of time today. So we're going to start reading this book. It's broken up into two large chapters. So I'm going to read each chapter in two sections. So there will only be 4 videos. There's only 69 pages in this book. And I think it would be actually really helpful to read this one and then follow it up with this one. In The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, Joseph Murphy does touch a little bit on scientific prayer. I think he touches on it a little bit in this book as well, but he doesn't go into it in its depth, how to pray scientifically, how to pray effectively versus the way that the majority of people pray. So I think that after we read this book, we'll do this one, and it will probably be more helpful to do it like that. So let's go ahead and just jump right in and read the first half of chapter 1. All right, so the first chapter is titled, Make Your Dreams Come True. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him, and could not speak peaceably unto him. And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it his brethren, and they hated him all the more. And he said unto them, Hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about, and made obeisance to my sheaf. And his brethren said to him, Shalt thou indeed reign over us, or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dream and for his words. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. And he told it to his father and his brethren, and his father rebuked him, and said unto him, What is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down to thee to the earth? Genesis 37 verses 3 through 10. Joseph in the Bible means disciplined or controlled imagination. It is one of the primal faculties of mind and has the power to project and clothe your ideas, giving them visibility on the screen of space. Israel loved Joseph. Israel is the spiritually awakened man who knows the power of controlled imagination. It is called the son of his old age. Son means expression. Old age infers wisdom and knowledge of the laws of mind. When you become familiar with the power of imagination, you will call it the son of your old age. Age is not the flight of years. It is really the dawn of wisdom and divine knowledge in you. Imagination is the mighty instrument used by great scientists, artists, physicists, inventors, architects, and mystics. When the world said, "It is impossible, it can't be done," the man with imagination said, "It is done." Through your imagination, you can also penetrate the depths of reality and reveal the secrets of nature. A great industrialist told me one time how he started in a small store. He said that I used to dream, Joseph was a dreamer, of a large corporation with branches all over the country. He added that regularly and systematically he pictured in his mind the giant building, offices, factories, and stores, knowing that through the alchemy of the mind, he could weave the fabric out of which his dreams would be clothed. He prospered and began to attract to himself by a universal law of attraction the ideas, friends, money, and everything he needed for the unfoldment of his ideal. He truly exercised and cultivated his imagination and lived with these mental patterns in his mind until imagination clothed them in form. I liked particularly one comment which he made as follows: "It is just as easy to imagine yourself successful as it is to imagine failure, and far more interesting." Joseph is a dreamer and a dreamer of dreams. This means he has visions, images, and ideals in his mind and knows that there is a creative power which responds to his mental pictures. The mental images we hold are developed in feeling. It is wisely said that all our senses are modifications of the one sense, feeling. Troward says, "Feeling is the law, and the law is the feeling. Feeling is the fountainhead of power." We must charge our mental pictures with feeling in order to get results. We are told Joseph dreamed a dream and told it to his brethren, and they hated him. Perhaps as you read this, you have a dream, an ideal, a plan, or a purpose that you would like to accomplish. To hate is to reject in Bible language. The thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and opinions in your mind are your brethren which challenge you, belittle your dreams, and say to you, "You can't, it is impossible, forget it." Perhaps other thoughts come into your mind which scoff at your plan or ambition. You discover there is a quarrel in your mind with your own brethren. Opposition sets in. The way to handle the opposition in your mind is to detach your attention from sense evidence and appearance of things, and begin to think clearly and with interest about your goal or objective. When your mind is engaged on your goal or objective, you are using the creative law of mind, and it will come to pass. "Lo, my sheaf arose, and all stood upright, and behold, your sheaves stood round about, and made obeisance to my sheaf." Lift your ideal or desire up in consciousness. Exalt it. Commit yourself wholeheartedly to it. Praise it, give it your attention, love, and devotion to your ideal. And as you continue to do this, all the fearful thoughts will make obeisance to your exalted state of mind, i.e., they will lose their power and disappear from the mind. Through your faculty to imagine the end result, you have control over any circumstance or condition. If you wish to bring about the realization of any wish, desire, or idea, form a mental picture of fulfillment in your mind. Constantly imagine the reality of your desire. In this way, you will actually compel it into being. What you imagine as true already exists in the next dimension of mind. And if you remain faithful to your ideal, it will one day objectify itself. The master architect within you will project on the screen of visibility what you impress on your mind. Joseph, or imagination, wears a coat of many colors. A coat in the Bible is a psychological covering. Your psychological garments are the mental attitudes, moods, and feelings you entertain. The coat of many colors represent the many facets of the diamond, or your capacity to clothe any idea in form. You can imagine your friend who is poor living in the lap of luxury. You can see their face light up with joy, see the expression change, and a broad smile across their lips. You can hear them tell you what you want to hear. You can see them exactly as you wish to see them. They're radiant, happy, prosperous, and successful. Your imagination is the coat of many colors. It can clothe and objectify any idea or desire. You can imagine abundance where lack is, peace where discord is, health where sickness is. His brethren said to him, "Shalt thou indeed reign over us?" Imagination is the first faculty and takes precedence over all the other powers or elements of consciousness. You have 12 faculties or brethren, but your imagination, when disciplined, enables you to collapse time and space and rise above all limitations. When you keep your imagination busy with noble, godlike concepts and ideas, you will find it is the most effective of all faculties in your spiritual ongoing. The phrase, "Joseph is sold into Egypt," means that your concept or your desire must be subjectified, which is Egypt in this metaphor, first before it becomes objectified. The phrase "Joseph is sold into Egypt" means that your concept or desire must be subjectified first before it becomes objectified. Every concept must go down into Egypt, meaning into the subjective where the birth of ideas takes place. Out of Egypt have I called my son. Joseph is commander of Egypt, which tells you that imagination controls the whole conceptive realm. Whatever prison you may be in, whether it is the prison of fear, sickness, lack, or limitation of any kind, remember that Joseph is the commander in prison and can deliver you. You can imagine your freedom and continue to do so until it is subjectified. Then, after gestation in the darkness, the manifestation comes. Your prayer is answered. Consider for a moment a distinguished, talented architect. He can build a beautiful, modern 20th century city in his mind, complete with superhighways, swimming pools, aquariums, parks, etc. He can construct in his mind the most beautiful palace that eye has ever seen. He can see the building in its entirety completely erected before he ever gives his plans to the builders. Where was the building? It was in his imagination. With your imagination, you can actually hear the invisible voice of your mother, even though they may live 10,000 miles away. You can also see her clearly and as vividly as if she were present. This is the wonderful power you possess. You can develop and cultivate this power and become successful and prosperous. Haven't you heard a sales manager say, "I have to let so-and-so go because their attitude is wrong"? The business world knows the importance of right attitude. I remember many years ago having printed a small article on reincarnation. These pamphlets were on display on a book counter of a church where I lectured. In the beginning, very few of them were sold because the sales girl was violently opposed to its contents. I explained to her the biblical meaning of reincarnation, the origin of the story, and what it was all about. She understood the contents of the drama and became enthusiastic about the booklets. They were all sold before my lecture series was completed. This was an instance of the importance of the right mental attitude. Your mental attitude means your mental reaction to people, circumstances, conditions, and objects in space. What is your relationship with your coworkers? Are you friendly with people, with animals, and with the universe in general? Do you think the universe is hostile and that the world owes you a living? In short, what is your attitude? The emotional reaction of the above-mentioned girl was one of deep-seated prejudice. That was the wrong attitude in selling books. She was biased toward the book and the writer. You can develop the right mental attitude when you realize that nothing externally can upset you or hurt you without your mental consent. You are the only thinker in your world. Consequently, nothing can move you to anger, grief, or sorrow without your mental consent. The suggestions that come to you from the outside have no power whatsoever, except if you permit them to move in you and in your thoughts negatively. Realize you are master of your thought world. Emotions follow thought. Hence, you are supreme in your own orbit. Do you permit others to influence you? Do you allow the headlines in the newspapers or gossip magazines or criticisms of others to upset you or bring about mental depression? If you do, you must admit you are the cause of your own mood. You created your emotional reaction. Your attitude is wrong. Do you imagine evil of others? If you do, notice the emotion generated in your deeper self. Is it negative and destructive to your health and prosperity? Sorry, it is negative to your health and prosperity. Circumstances can affect you only as you permit them. You can voluntarily and definitely change your attitude toward life and all things. You can become master of your fate and captain of your soul or your subconscious mind. Through disciplined, directed, and controlled imagination, you can dominate and master your emotions and mental attitude in general. If you imagine, for example, that the other is mean, dishonest, and jealous, notice the emotion you evoked within yourself. Now reverse the situation. Begin to imagine the same person is honest, sincere, loving, and kind. Notice the reaction it calls forth in you. Are you not, therefore, master of your attitudes? In reality, the truth of the whole matter is that it is your real concept of God which determines your whole attitude toward life in general. Your dominant idea about God is your idea of life, for God is life. If you have the dominant idea or attitude that God is the spiritual power within you responsive to your thought, and that therefore, since your habitual thinking is constructive and harmonious, this power is guiding and prospering you in all ways, this dominant attitude will color everything. You will be looking at the world through the positive, affirmative attitude of mind. Your outlook will be positive, and you will have a joyous expectancy of the best. Many people have a gloomy, despondent outlook on life. They are sour, cynical, and cantankerous. This is due to the dominant mental attitude which directs their reaction to everything. A person's mood of joy is usually short-lived who is constantly singing the blues when something wonderful comes into their experience or their families. A young boy of 16 years going to high school said to me, "I'm getting very poor grades. My memory isn't good and I do not know what's the matter." The only thing wrong was his attitude. He adopted a new mental attitude by realizing how important his studies were in gaining entrance grades to college in order to become a lawyer. He began to pray scientifically, which is one of the quickest ways to change the mentality. In scientific prayer, we deal with the principle which responds to thought. This young man realized there was a spiritual power within him and that it was the only cause and power. Furthermore, he began to claim that his memory was perfect and that the infinite intelligence constantly revealed to him everything he needed to know at all times everywhere. He began to radiate love and goodwill to his teachers and his fellow students. This young man is now enjoying a greater freedom than he had known for several years. Let me check just seeing where we're at on the chapter. He constantly imagines the teachers and his mother congratulating him on all A's. It is imagining the desired results that have followed this change of attitude toward his studies. We have said previously that all our mental attitudes are conditioned by imagination. If you imagine it is going to be a black day today, business is going to be very poor, that it is raining, no customers will come into the store, they have no money, etc., you will experience the result of your negative imagery. One time, Troward was walking the streets of London and he imagined he saw a snake on the street. Fear caused him to become semi-paralyzed. What he saw looked like a snake, but Troward had the same mental and emotional reaction as if it were a snake. Imagine things are lovely, noble, and of good report, and your entire emotional attitude toward life will change. What do you imagine about your life? Is it going to be a happy life for you? Or is it going to be one long series of frustrations? Choose ye whom ye will serve. You mold, fashion, and shape your outer world of experience according to the mental images you habitually dwell on. Imagine conditions and circumstances in life which dignify, elevate, please, and satisfy. If you imagine life is cold, cruel, hard, bitter, and that struggle and pain are inevitable, you are making life miserable for yourself. Imagine yourself on the golf course. You are free, relaxed, full of enthusiasm and energy. Your joy is in overcoming all the difficulties presented by the golf course. The thrill is in surmounting all the obstacles. Now let us take this scene. Imagine yourself going into a funeral parlor. Notice the different emotional response brought forward as you picture yourself in each of the above-mentioned situations. In the funeral parlor or the chapel, you can rejoice in the person's new birthday. You can imagine the loved one surrounded by his or her friends in the midst of indescribable beauty and love. You can imagine God's river of peace flooding the minds and hearts of all present. You can actually ascend the heavens of your own mind wherever you are. This is the power of your imagination. And he dreamed yet another dream and told it his brethren and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. In ancient symbology, the sun and the moon represent the conscious and the subconscious mind. The 11 stars represent the 11 powers in addition to imagination. Here again, the inspired writers are telling you that disciplined imagination takes precedence over all other faculties of the mind and controls the direction of the conscious and subconscious mind. Imagination is first and foremost. It can be scientifically directed. I was examining one of the round towers of Ireland with my father about 50 years ago. He said nothing for an hour, but remained passive and receptive, seeming to be in a pensive mood. I asked him what was he meditating on. This is the essence of his answer. He pointed out that it is only by dwelling on the great, wonderful ideas of the world that we grow and expand. He contemplated the age of the stones in the tower. Then his imagination took him back to the quarries where the stones were first formed. His imagination unclothed the stones. He saw with the interior eye the structure, the geological formation, the composition of the stone, and reduced it to the formless state. Finally, he imagined the oneness of the stones with all stones and with all of life. He realized in his divine imagery that it was possible to reconstruct the history of the Irish race from looking at the round tower. Through the imaginative faculty, this teacher was able to see the invisible men living in the tower and to hear their voices. The whole place became alive to him in his imagination. Through this power, he was able to go back in time when there was no round tower there. In his mind, he began to weave a drama of the place from which stones originated, who brought them, the purpose of the structure, and the history connected with it. As he said to me, I am able to almost feel the touch and hear the sound of steps that vanished thousands of years ago. The subjective mind permeates all things. It is in all things and is the substance from which they are made. The treasure house of eternity is in the very stones comprising a building. There is nothing inanimate. All is life in its varied manifestations. The sun and the moon make obeisance to Joseph, imagination. Truly, through your faculty of imagination, you can imagine the invisible secrets of nature are revealed to you. You will find that you can plumb the very depths of consciousness, calling things that be not as though they were, and the unseen becomes seen. The other night, I sat in a park and looked at the setting sun. Suddenly, I began to think that the sun is like a house in the city of Los Angeles. There is a greater sun behind our sun, and so on to infinity. It staggers the imagination to ponder and meditate on the myriads of suns and solar galaxies extending into infinity beyond the Milky Way. This world is only a grain of sand in the infinite seashore. Instead of seeing the parts, let us look at the wholeness, the unity of all things. We are, as the poet said, all parts of one stupendous whole, whose body nature is, and God the soul. It is really out of the imaginative mind of man all religions are born. Is it not out of the realm of imagination, television, radio, radars, superjets, and all other modern inventions came? Your imagination is the treasure house of infinity, which releases you to all the precious jewels of music, art, poetry, and inventions. You can look at some ancient ruin, an old temple or pyramid, and reconstruct the records of the dead past. In the ruins of an old churchyard, you can also see a modern city resurrected in all its beauty and glory. You may be in a prison of want, lack, or behind stone bars, but in your imagination, you can find an undreamed of measure of freedom. Remember how Chico, the Parisian sewer cleaner, imagined and lived in a paradise state of mind called the seventh heaven, even though he never saw the light of day. Bunyan, in prison, wrote the great masterpiece Pilgrim's Progress. Milton, though blind, saw with the interior eye. His imagination made his brain a ball of fire, and he wrote Paradise Lost. In this way, he brought some of God's paradise to all people everywhere. Imagination was Milton's spiritual eye, which enabled him to go about God's business, whereby he annihilated time, space, and matter, and he brought forth the truths of the invisible presence and power. A genius is a person who is in rapport with their subconscious mind. They're able to tap this universal reservoir and receive answers to their problems. Thus, they don't have to work by the sweat of their brow. In the genius type of mind, the imaginative faculty is developed to a very high degree. All great poets and writers are gifted with a highly developed and cultivated imaginative faculty. Okay, so that is exactly half of chapter 1. So we will stop right there, and I will read the rest of chapter 2 in the next video. And I do want to say, the title to me is a little off-putting. I wasn't sure what to expect. So I hope that you are getting something out of the little bit that I've read, kind of where we're heading with this book. It's obviously it's talking about the subconscious mind some more, and also what your thoughts can do, whether they're bad or good, to bring about your reality. So yeah, I'm hoping that you guys will like this book, that it resonates with you. If not, it's not very long. So but if it does, and if you do gain something from it, like I believe that I gain at least a few things from every book that I read, and I really do my best to try to incorporate those things, no matter how inconsequential they may seem, because they do make a difference in my life in different degrees. So yeah, until next time, we will stop right there. We will read the last half of that chapter, and then we'll only have one other chapter after that to wrap up. So please take care of yourself. Please take care of those around you. I will see you in the next video for the last half of chapter 2. Take care until then. Bye-bye.